Welcome to Fearless Conversations, a podcast by free thinkers of the world. The content within this episode is intended for mature audiences only. Hi, welcome to Fearless Conversations. I'm Euge, and I'm with my co-host,
Mariano.
And today we have a very special guest, a personal friend of mine. This is María Cruz. She's an Argentine. She has been living in the US for the past 7 years. María has been to Burning Man 3 times. Is this correct, María?
Yes.
And
yes.
Today she's going to tell us all about it. Welcome.
Welcome, María.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for taking time and joining us.
Oh, it's great to talk to more people about Burning Man and what Burning Man is.
I'm very curious to why María has gone there 3 times. It probably will continue to go, I assume. What's your connection with this place, and why do you obviously enjoy it so much?
I think Burning Man is an opportunity to let go of some commodities and accommodations that we have in the modern world, that we have very silently and thoughtlessly bought into. And I think there are very few opportunities in the world, or like in everyday life, to actually disconnect from devices, from the internet, and disconnect from all of these accumulations, and connect with nature and connect with your community and with your friends in a more a natural way, in a more organic way, and spontaneous as well. And so it's a break from a rhythm that I think is very exhausting. In the modern world, I think we are used to getting all these messages all the time, especially now with smartphones. And we were trained by technology to respond right away. And that, I think, is exhausting for anybody to just have to live up to that. And I think taking a break from that and going back to how humans used to live and connect, like hundreds or maybe thousands of years ago, is very refreshing, and it's a privilege to be able to experience that every once in a while.
Yeah, you mentioned connection with nature. Let's tell people, where does Burning Man take place?
Yeah, it's a very interesting place because it takes place in the Black Rock Desert in Nevada. So it's a desert. It's an environment that is hard to survive in by your own means, but that's exactly the point. It's how can you be self-reliant and bring what you need to survive for a week, and just survive, and also then thrive if you can. So the weather is very, very hot during the day, and it's very cold at night, except in the last few years it's been actually really hot in general. And depending on the fire season and how fires have developed throughout the year, sometimes it can be smoky too. So last year, Black Rock City, as Burning Man is called, the air was not very clean. You had to wear masks because there was smoke in the air, but that's not usually the case. And yeah, it happens in a desert. You have to bring clothes that protect you. Many people walk around with parasols. You have to cover yourself, and then have plenty of water, electrolytes, food for a week. It's actually really interesting to think about all the things that you have to prepare when you don't have a fridge or electricity or anything like that. So also wearing wearable lights that are usually LED lights and things like that, so that you can be seen at night and nobody hits you, because there's no it's a spontaneous city that forms just it's built in a week and it's torn down in a week, but there's no electricity, no lights at night. So you have to really think of all the context in which you're going to be participating and provide all the things you need for your own safety.
So they don't provide you the list of items that you should bring?
No. So, I mean, there are people who have done this. So if you look on the internet, on forums and things like that, you can find lists that people have made through the years, but this is all made by the community. And it's not, the organization only handles the tickets, selling the tickets, distributing low income tickets, so tickets that are cheaper for people who have lower incomes, and then managing art grants, because in the desert there's also people who bring a piece of art for other people to experience. So if you've seen like, I can send you some links later, but if you've seen like big displays of sculptures in the desert, that's probably from Burning Man. So that's what the organization does, and then they build the man that is burned on Saturday of the Burning Man week. Yeah,
It's 1 week.
Yeah, it's 1 week. So it's actually, if you go on build week, it's 2 weeks, because it takes 1 week to build everything, and then there's the week of the event, and then Exodus. Everybody leaves. I was gonna go this year, but I'm pregnant, and so I was feeling really tired, and I thought that going to the desert for longer than a week when I was 11 weeks pregnant was a bit too much for me at the time. But my partner went with our camp because we were building art. This year we built some art, and it's very different. It's a lot quieter, and you can hear the sound of the desert a lot more at night when everybody goes to sleep, because during the week there's a lot more movement, people are going out, there's a lot more musical events, and so it's harder to experience that. And there's also there's a lot more people, and a lot of people, so I always go and I stay in a tent with a shade structure, but many people go and stay in an RV or camper, and they have power generators to keep the RV with air conditioning, and that generates noise pollution. So that's also part of Burning Man week. You hear a lot of engines going.
Oh, wow. And how does, like, is there a limit on how many people can go, and when they sell tickets and stuff?
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, there is a limit to how there's a limit to how many tickets are available. There's and I can't remember, but it was something like 2,000 tickets in the early bird, and then the main sale was something like 10,000 tickets, and then they distribute, there's like a number of VIP tickets that are super expensive, and you're like funding the organization for the future, and then they distribute tickets to thematic camps or art camps, and so there's about 80 to 100,000 people that enter the event every year. It's a city.
This whole city that is built in 1 week, right? Then disappears.
Yeah, it disappears. And it's one of the principles of Burning Man is leave no trace. So that's also part of being responsible for the things you carry in the world. And I think this is also very meaningful, because every day we just buy things and we consume things and then we discard things, and it's so easy to just get rid of like plastic and things like that. And in the desert you have to carry out all of your trash in a trash bag, and so you think a lot more about reusing containers and things like that. And it's very important to leave no trace, because you want to leave the desert as you found it, like as intact as possible, and not leaving such a deep mark in nature.
Yeah, because I just came from a retreat in Laguna Beach in California, but it was more of a health and spiritual with yoga and hiking and things like that. And there was, but we were in a comfortable building and stuff. But one of the things I loved the eating healthy, all vegetarian food, and being in contact with nature, you know, those type of things. It was great. But I was a little bit disappointed in my connection with the fellow participants because they started talking about politics and stuff. What do you guys talk about, or have you made new friends when you go to these places? What's that? What's the social part of it? How does that work?
That's a great question. Is yes, I have made new friends. I'm trying to remember examples of this. Sometimes you make friends and you hang out during the night, and then you never see them again. But it's like it's a very genuine connection, and so the fact that there is no cell phone reception and cell phones don't work, I think is such a blessing, because everybody is so present in what's happening, and a lot of people are also against even stopping a situation or an experience to take a picture. So not a lot of people take pictures either. So if you can picture this situation of there's something going on, there's an activity, there's maybe some music playing, and there's a bunch of people there, and there are no devices interrupting the interaction. So I think that's very, very valuable. Then when people connect, they usually connect sometimes through dancing, through a shared taste of music. And maybe there's a joke, and then there's a comment. Somebody can make a comment about this cool outfit that you're wearing, and then they tell you, oh, I made it myself, and then you start talking about that, and then you end up talking about what are your passions, and where you live, and who you live with, and things like that. And it's a type of social connection that starts from a shared passion. And this is how I haven't really, in these 7 years, only now I started to learn what my Burning Man friends do for a living. We don't really talk about work or what we do for work. It's not very common, and it's actually, we go out there also to disconnect from everything, and work is one of the things we disconnect from. So not everybody's like, nobody's interested in talking about that. They are interested in talking about what moves you, what are you passionate about. I think everybody there is in such a raw state that all of these things that we usually put away or hide, they all come out. And everybody is open to have like a frank conversation about hard things. And sometimes this happens. There's a really special place at Burning Man, which is opposite of the man that is burned. There's a temple that is built by the organization as well. And in the temple, people put letters, pictures, pictures of people that passed away. They write feelings that they had, things that they want to overcome, and things that they want to let go of. And the temple is decorated with writings and letters and pictures from all sorts of different stories that are moving to a next phase of extinction. And so this is a space where a lot of these conversations also happen. People go there to mourn something that they lost, and this is so the man burns on Saturday night, the temple burns on Sunday night, and it's a place to kind of burn away things, relationships that you need to let go of.
What does a day look like when you wake up? What time do you wake up? What do you do? Do you eat, do you eat on a table or on the ground and stuff like that?
So you wake up whenever you can, because sometimes it gets really, really hot. So I usually wake up at 7:30 or 8 a.m. After that, it's hard. There's a lot of noise around, but also it's very, very hot. So, well, unless you're sleeping in an RV with air conditioning, you're probably up by 9 a.m. at the latest. And going to Burning Man is like going camping. So you will have there whatever you have when you go camping. I like going camping and having, I have a couple of coolers, I have a table, I have a chair. So yeah, you can have breakfast that you brought yourself, or you can go around because there are camps that offer breakfast to other people. So you can find a breakfast that you like. This year, I really wanted to go to get French toast because there was a camp giving French toast, and I never made it. I never made it. But some people go the extra mile to give something to the people that they will be camping with. And that's another principle of Burning Man, gifting economy. So money doesn't have any worth at Burning Man. You can't buy things, but if you need something, you can always ask others, and people will help you probably. And then there's the gifting economy, where people offer things to others, and like breakfast. And so you get up around that time, you eat something, and then you usually have a bike because you can't use your car at Burning Man. So you move around in your bike, and then you get on your bike and you go to find an adventure.
Yeah,
that's amazing. And tell us about the art you brought to Burning Man.
Yes, so this year I organized a camp for my Argentinian friends, because I usually camp with and my Burning Man friends that are mostly American, but they are other nationalities as well. And this year I wanted to do something different, so I organized a camp for my Argentinian friends, and a bunch of them actually came from Argentina. And one of them is an architect, Franco Beverati, and he, some years ago, he created this sculpture called La Joya, the jewel. And it's a diamond-shaped structure that is 8 feet tall, so about 2 meters, or like 1.80 meters or something like that. And it's built on iron, so it has different shelves, you can climb it. And it all started with this concept of we are having a jewel of a time, which is a very Argentinian expression. Le estamos pasando joya. And so the joya, when they built it in Argentina, it has 2 sides, party and DJ. So one side is making a barbecue, and the other side is a DJ playing tunes. When we did it here at Burning Man, we thought it was too much of a liability to have people dancing on the Hosha while having fire underneath. So we decided to simplify and just have the Hosha, and people were able to climb it, and then you can see the desert and the sunset from there, and you could also see the man burn. So we brought this, and we also brought a giant mate, the mate gore, and that was made of wood, but you couldn't climb that one. And yeah, and these two were designed by Franco, and they were approved by the Burning Man organization as an art piece. And because of that, we were constituted as an art support camp, and they gave us a few tickets, and we were able to access the event earlier to build. Yeah, it was really fun, because then we had collaborations with different musicians, DJs that came to play. The Hosha and Mate had LED lights that responded to music. So it became like a really nice party in the desert
Oh, wow.
to experience. And yeah, we made friends with a camp that was next to us, that they were called Melton John, like Elton John but melting. And they had a giant art car. An art car is like it's also called a monster car. It's a car that has been modified to display something, and in this case it was a giant piano with like a rooftop that you could sit on, and they had a whole band playing on that rooftop. And that was the first art car that came by the Hosha to play jazz and other more classical sounds by the Hosha. It was really, really nice.
Is that every night? Every night there's music and dancing and also this art that you can see like an art show?
Yeah, that happens every night, and it happens on different spots throughout the playa, as we call the desert there. And it's hard to imagine this, but maybe we can find some pictures later. But if you can picture a desert during the day, it's very bright, very, very hot, there are no clouds, so all the sun is scorching the land. And then it starts to get dark, so sunset starts to happen, and the colors turn pink, and then the first stars start to appear. And then when everything goes pitch dark, that's when the city lights up with all of the lights that people brought and the fire that is going on in different spots in the city. And so when you look around, there's always like some kind of fun light that is a LED light rolling through. There are art cars that are also rolling by with a specific like light setup. So it's very interesting to see what the city becomes at night. And you hear music coming from different spots throughout the playa, and it's different styles of music. There are art cars that are very large, and they have like a really powerful sound system. So they tend to drive really well-known DJs that play there and things like that.
I have a question about La Jolla or La Joya, because it's Argentine and we speak with acento rioplatense. La Joya was the same one that was here. It traveled there, or it was a replica?
It's a replica. So now the Joya is becoming more popular, and so the first Joya, I think this is worth mentioning. The first Joya was made of wood, and it was burnt at the local Burning Man event in Buenos Aires, and this was in 2018. And then they started making it of iron. I think it's iron, and so there's one in Buenos Aires that they use at the local Burning Man event. And then there's one that was commissioned for there's a Bienal de Buenos Aires. I think it's organized by Alan Fine, I don't know, but there's one that is golden and it's in Puerto Madero, and that's like the
Wow.
because the José is usually black, and then they made one especially to ship to the US, and now it's in California, and it's just staying in the US for. I think they want to keep taking it places, but I don't know exactly what the plans are.
Oh, so it was built in Buenos Aires and now it's there. It lives there.
Yeah, it was built in Buenos Aires because all of this was done with crowdfunding. We didn't, so sometimes Burning Man organization gives away art grants, but we didn't get one. So we had to fund it ourselves. And the cheapest way of doing it was produce it in Buenos Aires and then ship it instead of producing it in California.
You have one in Argentina. Do you have them all over the world?
Yeah. So the one in Buenos Aires is called Fuego Austral, and it happens in February around Carnaval, I think for Carnaval weekend. And it's about 500 people that participate there. And it takes place in the area of Tandil in the province of Buenos Aires. So it's a different environment because you have grass, you have shade. It's very, very different, but I heard it's a lot of fun. I haven't been able to go yet. And then there's Africa Burn is very popular too. I think that usually happens in South Africa, close to Joburg, I think. And yeah, there are many Burning Man events throughout the world. I heard of one that takes place in Europe, I think maybe in Sweden or Austria, I can't remember. There's a person who gives their castle to have the event, and there are eccentric things like that happening in the Burning Man community. And that's another satellite Burning Man event.
In terms of Maria, like how has this affected you? You know, in your everyday life, in your relationships, in your work?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I remember the first time I arrived at Burning Man. I remember thinking I arrived at a place for a journey that I started some years ago, because before moving to the US, I started doing alternative therapy and focusing on energy healing and trying to look to be more present and to use these resources or these techniques to heal myself. And so when I arrived at Burning Man, suddenly I was in a place that required me to have immediate presence all the time. And everything that I had been working on made a lot of sense all of a sudden. Everybody was there for a reason, and everything was connected in that way. So to me, being able to experience that sustainedly over several days was very healing, and it just made me see that I can that there's a lot of value in just taking the time to check in with yourself and to make sure that you are present and that you are acting with intention, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, and instead of rushing to the next thing or rushing to always be kind of running towards something else, having the intention of connecting with this thing now and then saying no to other things, it was a lot about being present. And I also learned to connect with people through passion instead of through what you do in life, which is not always connected. It's not always the same thing. Being present in conversations and not just talking because you know what to say. I think that's also another thing that I took from Burning Man.
Wow. Just because for free thinkers of the world, our mission is uniting the world through the power of reason, empathy, and storytelling. And it sounds like there's a lot of storytelling in this environment because you're disconnected from technology, from work, from money, all the stuff that's a huge distraction. And you're connecting on a human level of what we're really passionate about and our emotions, our spirituality, things like that, right? It creates that environment where you don't worry about the mortgage, you don't worry about your boss, you don't worry about, deadlines, all this
Exactly.
stuff, right?
Yeah, and then when I don't know, I remember when I went back to work, I used to be so concerned about this thing or this person that usually says this thing that bothers me or things like that. You just put them into perspective and I think you're able to forgive more because in the end, if somebody's being catty to you or if they aren't seeing you for who you are, it's because they are missing something, and it's not on you. So being able to let go and not internalize other people's perceptions and fury, I think that was a real gift that I took.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. The perceptions, the perceptions that we have, we create this story of somebody we just meet. And it happened to me in this last retreat. I already kind of categorized, oh, this person is the ideology or how their values. But if we can break those perceptions in an environment that's safe, and that people are open up and they're vulnerable, you just feel more human. You feel more alive. You more at peace, more connected. That's what I'm getting from. That's the energy I'm feeling from you when you talk about it. Like it's so loving. It's love and connection and peace.
This is amazing. This is such a rich topic, and we didn't even get to discuss Burning Man in different places, like the philosophy of is it expanding? Is it what do you think is the new frontier for Burning Man?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see it going?
That's a really great question. So during the pandemic, the official Burning Man didn't take place because the gatherings couldn't happen, and so some of the things that the community of Burning Man was talking about is this is a perfect time for all the burners to take back the values of Burning Man to the community and to create some of that space there. And I think that has been happening in different ways. I have a friend who started a nonprofit close by in Alameda. I live in Oakland, and he started a nonprofit to contribute back to regenerating the soil and having a sustainable environment. And he was able to get some unused land between the railways, and has like a farm program for kids, and he's slowly building community. And I think he's a burner at heart, even though he went only once to Burning Man.
Yeah.
I think that intention of just starting something from scratch and seeing how you can build something with the things that you have around, that is what Jonathan is doing, and he's great at it. And I think that's the next thing for Burning Man, is how do you take this back home? How do you use this love that you connect with in the desert to connect with the people that are next to you? How do you make it with limited resources? There was a time here in 2020 that was a bit hard for the people in the Bay Area, because we couldn't really go out because of the pandemic. You can go out, but you had to wear a mask, and then the fires started, so there was smoke everywhere, and one day everything turned orange, and you couldn't really it was like very dystopian. And there was a time when electricity was going off for some areas, so a lot of people that would typically go to Burning Man had generators, and they took out their generators to have power and try to survive. And I think there are different situations that we're going to go through with the climate being how it is, and having an entrepreneurial spirit and being resourceful, I think are some values that you take away from Burning Man that you can bring back to your everyday life, and try to be less wasteful and more productive at the same time. I think going to Burning Man, a lot of it is allowing yourself to be vulnerable with others. I think there's so much that we have under control in our lives, and when you go to the desert, you can have a plan, but there's a lot of things that are going to happen, and it will probably go out of your hands. And so I think just allowing yourself to be vulnerable is a great place to start. Even if you can never make it to an event like this, it's still a good way of connecting genuinely with others.
You say that, I don't know if you saw the video about vulnerability from Brené Brown.
Oh yeah, the woman. Yeah, I've seen it some years ago. Yeah.
So it's interesting you mentioned that, because she did a research for years, 6 years, how to connect with people, and she was trying to figure out what if it's this or that, and then she realized it's about being vulnerable and opening up, and if you are vulnerable, then people will usually react the same way, and they start being vulnerable. And vulnerable simply means opening up your heart, your values, your ideas. I guess it's vulnerable because it's associated with things that are painful, your fears, your anger. There's a lot of anger, things like that. But thank you so much for mentioning that, because sometimes we forget that that's how you connect with people. So that's great message.
Thank you.
So nice, Maria, that you talk about this, and you do it with so much peace and harmony. So that's also what I'm receiving from your end. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Maria, thank you so much for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure to learn about Burning Man, and we are very curious about it, and you should definitely tell us about your next experience there. If you want to get in touch with the art projects Maria was talking about, you can go to joshamate.org, and we're going to print it on screen so you can reach it. And thank you so much for joining. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Maria. That was amazing. Thank you.
Thank
for
you.
sharing.
This is the end of our episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.